Have you ever encountered people who never take no for an answer? They want something from you, or they want to do something. When people oppose it, they don't give in to the refusal of people. This can be considered quite annoying or irritating. This can cause conflict. And children are told not to be rude and to have manners and to accept people's refusals. That is what they teach children. And people consider children pleasant when children give in to their refusals. Now, hold on a minute. We have a standard for children that we don't extend to adults, especially adults who are using violence upon us. Think about the government. Why is it that the government never takes no for an answer? Because the government is a cult that feels entitled to get whatever they want from you at all costs. And the government consists of individuals who are motivated to act out this entitlement that they entitled themselves to. The government is a cult that entitled themselves to control you. And if you refuse that control, they escalate on you, sometimes even killing you. However, why doesn't the masses do something about the government? They don't. Why? Because that same government that feels entitled to escalate on them is doing the dirty job for them. This is what you need to understand. Just because you refuse something doesn't mean you're right. Someone can expect you to drive on the right side of the road. Now, if you are in the United Kingdom, you will likely say, hold on a minute, I can't do that because everyone's driving to the left side of the road here. If I drive to the right side, it's going to cause car crashes, it's going to be trouble. In that case, you are justified in refusing something. If you just came home from work and you're tired and you need to relax and people want to play video games, you can refuse it. There are times you refusing something is required or it's justified. For example, if someone wants to work at the hospital to become a surgeon, but they never finish medical school, you're right in refusing it. But just because you refuse something doesn't mean you're right. For example, when your children require some attention from you and they're just little children and you just don't want to do it because you just don't want to, that's neglect towards your children, right over there. You're causing psychological harm to your children, and your children are part of the community, so you're also causing harm indirectly to your community. In this case, your no is a crime. If you are running in the supermarket disregarding the safety of other people, that no attitude of yours is a crime. So just because you can say no or act out your no doesn't mean you are correct, and it doesn't mean people should take it. But look at this. When it comes to children, or when it comes to people at the same level as us or lower, we expect them to take our no. Sometimes we, when I mean the human species, we tend to just ignore such people, just to express that we don't think they're worthy of our time. Why doesn't the human species have the same attitude to those that are oppressing them? Because they're in on the oppression, and that's what I'm teaching you here. Society, that is, worldlings who are fleeing together, they never take no for an answer. When the crowd has an attitude, you are expected to take their attitude. If you refuse to put up with the attitude of the crowd turns on you to devour you. Where that attitude is that they are against migrants, and I expect you to avoid migrants too, where that attitude is that they don't want to be held accountable for their neglect, and you point out the facts that the crowd has been neglectful. Anytime the crowd has an attitude about something and you refuse to confirm and validate their attitude, they turn on you. And they'll use the government as a tool to oppress you. And the government, in turn, wants to keep things in check, so the government will do whatever it can to appease the masses. That's how it goes. So it isn't just governments oppressing the masses, and the masses are helpless creatures who can't help it. The government is the hitman of the masses to do the dirty job for the masses. And in return, the masses tolerate governmental abuse. So the governmental abuse the masses tolerate is part of the deal. The masses want to be left alone, so they have expectations that don't add up, and they don't want to be addressed. The masses don't want to hear a no against their expectations. I'm talking about the masses here. And because the masses don't want to hear a no, that's why the masses have this cult called the government that takes revenge on everyone who says no to the crowd. That's society. Society doesn't want to hear no at any time. Anytime you say no to society's expectations, you get trouble. If it's written expectations, which we call laws, you are arrested by the police and you end up in jail or prison, or being convicted by a courthouse. If it's an unwritten rule, something people emotionally hold on to, people begin to avoid you, or they begin to ostracize you, or they end up actually persecuting you and become homicidal towards you. You are not allowed to say no to society. You're only allowed to say no to people who are weaker than you or towards children. You are not allowed to refuse the violence of the crowd. If you submit to the violence of the crowd will give you a pat on the back. If you realize that the situation is ridiculous and you want to be free, you have to die. Remember what I said. Just because you have the ability to refuse something doesn't mean your refusal is justified. And if your refusal is not justified, people should call you out on it. For example, if people always expect you to show manners and to be considerate of them, when it's your turn when it's your turn that they have to be considerate towards you, they're not considerate, then their refusal is illegitimate. Their refusal is even criminal. There should be reciprocity. You consider them, they consider you. If people only want you to consider them, and they don't even want to consider you, that means they just want to exploit you. If they don't want to give you your human value, now they can't give you human value, but what I mean is, if they don't want to treat you as valuable as you are as a human being, by considering you the proper way, but they do get upset when you don't make them comfortable, they're just narcissistic exploiters. That's what they are. As simple as that. And that's what society is. Society is a collective narcissist that the masses enact. Because society as a being does not exist. Society is a construct that human beings enact. And why do human beings enact society? They do this to have an excuse for their neglect. They do this to have an excuse for not intervening when necessary. They do this as an excuse to get a pat on the back. That is why. Anytime you refuse the expectation of society, expect trouble. Now look, if society expects you to consider elderly people, it expects you to consider safety on the road, it expects you to consider the well-being of the people around you, absolutely. Those are natural things we as human beings should do anyway. But when society comes with demands that it can't account for, or if their expectations are outdated or they cannot be justified, then you should refuse them. But here's where it comes. Society does not distinguish between correct expectations that they can justify and incorrect expectations. To them, expectations are expectations. Anytime you refuse to comply with an expectation, you commit an offense. When you commit an offense, they feel entitled to harm you and to take revenge on you. So, if people are not willing to be considerate and flexible towards you, then neither should they expect you to do the same towards them. If people get upset for you not considering them or not leaving them alone, because that's what a lot of people do also. They don't want to be bothered by anything nor anyone, but they do expect others to make sure that they are at ease. They want to be at ease at all costs, so everyone has to comply with leaving them at ease. No. Reality doesn't work that way. Reality requires you to be involved with other people and to deal with other people in a proper and constructive way. People that just want ease all the time, they demand others to keep distance so that they have ease all the time. But at the same time, those same people have to deal with people in the community, and then they want all people to treat them like the best person ever. This is narcissism. Yet there are a lot of people out there who have this exact attitude. They want to have ease at all costs. They force people to stay at a distance so they have ease. When they need something, the same community needs to be ready to help them out. The same community needs to have manners towards them. Now, if one individual does this, everyone's going to see this individual is a narcissist. This individual is exploitative. People will avoid that individual. But why is it that when society comes with this attitude, we tend to excuse it or see the good in it, even though there is no good in it? Look, what do you do when society comes with weird expectations? You come with excuses, legitimate excuses, to not comply. While you come with legitimate excuses, you move away from the crowd. And that's why you should be economically relevant anyway. That's why you should walk by faith and walk in power anyway. Because if you don't have any leverage in daily life, society will use their leverage to subject you and to drain you and to cast you away after they finish using you. That's how it goes. So either you have a leverage that you can use in your advantage and advantage of those around you, or the crowd uses their leverage as a crowd to violate you. As simple as that. That's why keep on agreeing with Christ, be at peace, and I'll see you in the next message.